First tonight, what's being called the Amazon's Chernobyl, an $8 billion battle that's pitted one of the world's biggest oil companies against some of the most vulnerable tribes of the Amazon. In one corner is Chevron, the second largest oil company in America with huge plans for Australia. In the other, fighting on the Indians' behalf, is Zoe Tryon, the daughter of Melbourne fashion designer Dale Kanga Tryon, who was once one of Prince Charles's closest friends. From Ecuador, Mike Munro brings this powerful investigation.
The children of the Amazon see the disaster this way. And what's this?
Petróleo. So this is petrol, this is crude.
And the fish?
Crude oil. This is why these fish are dead, because of the crude oil in the river. ¿Qué es este?
This is another river? We've come to the headwaters of the Amazon, to a village in Ecuador, to find Big Oil's dirty secret. And it's an ugly legacy. Thousands of square kilometres of the greatest jungle on Earth contaminated by decades of toxic oil waste.
That is crude. Have a smell.
Oh, that is foul. That is just disgusting. No wonder people are dying.
And we're with one woman who's determined to make one of the biggest companies in the world pay for what's been done. Her name is Zoe Tryon, and what we find is overwhelming.
So sad.
It's an environmental disaster the US oil giant Chevron is accused of washing its hands of.
We have a strict quarantine system to protect the integrity of the environment.
But while Chevron is advertising its environmental credentials in Australia, in the Amazon, it's fighting hardball to avoid paying billions to clean up this toxic catastrophe.
We will fight until hell freezes over and then fight it out on the ice.
Correct.
How arrogant is that?
It's not arrogant. That's determination to not be extorted.
It's still all just about money and profits for you.
Of course not.
It's like a child having a tantrum. They're not getting what they want. They're not being able to pressurize people. And so therefore they're saying that the whole country is corrupt.
This is northeastern Ecuador. The water that runs from the jungle here feeds the Amazon River. A fragile ecosystem that also holds an enormous wealth of oil. In the 1960s, Texaco moved in.
Venture a winding and dangerous path to the jungles of South America. Then, if the odds look good, take the glorious gamble and drill.
Texaco, together with Ecuador's national oil company Petroecuador, extracted hundreds of millions of barrels of oil. They left a legacy of devastation. Billions of litres of toxic waste dumped in open pits. For decades now, they've been leaching straight into the rivers.
Agua para tomar ni para bañar.
We're now living an impossible life. We have no water to drink, no water to bathe in. And in the case of the children, we've got so much illness here. I'm sorry, I'm getting all emotional. So sad.
Anthropologist, aristocrat, activist.
Thank you, Vince.
My pleasure.
The Honourable Zoe Tryon is the daughter of a British lord and Melbourne fashion designer Dale Tryon.
So you know what the situation
No, it's horrible. It's heartbreaking.
These days, when Zoe's not in Australia, she's in the Amazon.
Well, Mike, this is one of 956 waste pits left by the oil company.
5 years ago, she came here and vowed to take the case of Ecuador's Indian tribes to the world.
So this is another pit that the oil company never cleaned up.
Yes.
And again, seeping into the water table
Yes.
of the Amazon.
She's exposing the toxic waste left during the extraction of the oil. Much of it in deep, unlined pits around Indian villages.
This is one of those pits. And you look at it today and you think it's fine. But dig a little deeper and you realise that they are nothing but big lakes of crude oil up to 3 metres deep.
I'll just show you quite how deep it is. It's pretty deep.
And of course these pits right now leaking into the Amazon water basin.
Exactly. These are unlined pits. There's nothing stopping the water seeping down into the groundwater.
What was once pristine, full of wildlife and beauty, has been left for decades in a state of oil-soaked decay. And you don't have to travel far to see the impact on the lives of the people who live around the pits.
What's the state of this river?
Well, until 1986, they were dumping toxic waters straight into this river. And so this water is contaminated. Yeah. Yeah. She said, we know that it's contaminated, but what else can we do? We don't have anywhere else to go.
The contamination runs deep and wide.
The oil company just covered it with tree trunks and topsoil.
And these people bought the land?
These people bought the land. It cost them a year's salary. And they were told by the company it was absolutely fine to live here, that they'd remediated and cleaned the land. But as you'll see, it certainly wasn't. Mercedes, hola. ¿Cómo estás tú?
Bien, mamá, gracias.
Mercedes' parents bought this land when she was a little girl.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias, Mercedes.
And then, if you see what we've got here.
Oh yeah, God. So at this stage, it's like plasticine.
Yeah.
God, geez, it smells like filling up your tank. It smells like as if you're right at the pump.
Yeah.
That is just disgusting. No wonder people are dying.
The Indians of Ecuador blame oil pollution for an increase in cancers, birth defects, and miscarriages. Mercedes has a shocking skin condition which she says is irritated by the contamination.
Okay.
Dear me. You poor thing.
In another village, the chief of the Kofan people lost 2 sons. His older boy died after one of the toxic pits overflowed into the river.
And when he was 3, he would go bathe with his mother. Then after drinking the water from the river, and that caused him to vomit, got really sick, and passed away. We didn't even have enough time to take him to get help.
The Kofan was once a tribe of 5,000. Today, there are only 400. Before the contamination, they hunted in the forest and fished in the river. Now, they're forced to buy food in a nearby town.
This oil and this waste is contaminating the water and the land and the indigenous livelihoods, which they get everything they need from the forest. It's their pharmacy, it's their supermarket, it's everything. It's their hardware store. And this is all contaminated.
Pinning down just who will pay for this environmental disaster is at the heart of an 18-year-long court battle. In 1993, the Kofan and other Indians filed a lawsuit against Texaco in the United States seeking compensation. Texaco argued the trial had to be heard in Ecuador. By the time it was moved, Texaco had a new owner, Chevron.
You didn't want to have the case in America initially. You wanted it in Ecuador.
I think you're confusing Texaco and Chevron. Texaco is not Chevron. Chevron was not a party to the lawsuit in the United States.
Mr. Craig, we both know that when Chevron bought Texaco, it also bought Texaco's problems. And we both know that
You're absolutely wrong.
The class action was in process when Chevron bought Texaco. And you and I both know that you also bought the class action.
Forgive me, Michael, but you're absolutely wrong.
Chevron's argument that it can't be held responsible was rejected by a court in Ecuador earlier this year. Chevron was found absolutely responsible for cleaning up Texaco's Amazon mess, and to the tune of $8.6 billion.
The Ecuadorian sentence, the verdict that came out, is an illegitimate sentence, the product of a profoundly corrupted process. It has no applicability in any court that respects the rule of law.
Chevron has no intention of paying the $8.6 billion and is appealing the decision. It claims Texaco cleaned up what it was legally obliged to. It blames the state-owned Petroecuador for the toxic waste that was not cleaned up and additional pollution after Texaco left. And Chevron rejects any suggestion that toxic lakes are poisoning those living near them.
We don't believe that there's an epidemic of cancer or any other diseases as a result of oil.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't.
The science doesn't bear it out, so we wouldn't believe it now.
You're not going to believe it anyway, because you're going to not pay until hell freezes over, aren't you?
Well, we intend to fight this lawsuit as long as it takes.
And then you're going to fight it on the ice.
If that's required, yes.
Yeah.
We're now flying 200 kilometres south of the contaminated land to a village that did resist and continues to resist big oil.
Here we are in the village of Sariaku in the Quechua territory. And now we are in the heart of the Amazon.
Wow, this is unbelievable, isn't it?
Hola, hola Sabine, hola, hola.
Hello, Michael.
For me, this is paradise. It really is. This is pristine primary Amazon rainforest. And, you know, this is what the Kofan territory would have been like 40 years ago.
Here, there is no contamination. They still hunt in the forest, fish in the river. You can safely swim in the water.
You can drink this?
Yes.
Beautiful.
And the oil companies want to come here and do what happened there here.
Destroy it.
Uno, dos, tres.
Chevron is the second largest oil company in the United States. And now, Chevron is expanding operations into Australia's wilderness. Massive gas projects in the Pilbara and this $25 billion venture on the seabed off Western Australia's Kimberley coastline, right on a migration route for humpback whales and home to turtles and dolphins.
How can we trust you with our land and our Indigenous people when you've done this here in the Amazon?
Wherever Chevron operates in the world, it's going to comply with the highest environmental standards, the best practices, and it's a company that has a lot of respect for these things. So,
really?
I mean,
forgive me if I just don't get that.
Well, you know, that's your opinion.
Should we trust them?
I'd say absolutely not.
Mike Munro reporting, and on our website you can read more about this story, including additional documents supplied by Chevron.